Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Will here, and I get questions from a lot of folks, especially through my Instagram handle at Intuitive Wellness Now. I got a question recently from someone who was saying how they have a bowel obstruction and severe pain with that, which I can only imagine. And they were asking about is it possible to heal that naturally? And so I wanted this question really got me thinking about how I would like to talk a little bit about healing with you guys today. Not in that specific context. I am communicating with that person and giving them some direction, but I wanted to talk in a more general sense about healing and about the process of healing. That's something that I'm really passionate about, is teaching people about the process of healing. And so thank you to this person for sending me that question and just kind of prodding me a little bit to come on here and talk with you guys a little bit about this. As you know, or if you don't know, I've been on an 8-year healing journey from severe ulcerative colitis and Hashimoto's. You can go over to Ben Greenfield Life and hear my podcast that I did with him. And so I've been sharing this story. I've been talking about healing on Instagram, but I wanted to get over here on YouTube and talk a little bit more about it. And so the direction I want to go with this conversation today is something I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm working on behind the scenes, and that has to do with this fundamental fact about healing and the process and the journey of healing. And that is that healing is about restoring relationship. And it's about restoring relationship on 3 fundamental levels, guys. The first fundamental level when it comes to healing and relationship has to do with restoring the relationship, healthy relationship with yourself, with your own body, with your own inner child, with yourself. That's number 1, right? Number 2 is, and I would say that, and I'll put these in order in a moment. I would say number 2 is healing your relationships with others. And this can, again, we're talking generally right now. So this can be like healing relationships with parents, caregivers, siblings, friends. It can be healing relationship, which I know gets really damaged with the medical system, with doctors. If you've had chronic health conditions, most people, or a lot of people, including myself, don't trust doctors anymore, really struggle with relationship with doctors, and so they don't trust them. So we got to heal that relationship. But we need to, so number 2 is healing relationship with others. And then the third one is healing relationship with God. And I would put in order healing relationship with God, healing relationship with yourself, and then healing relationship with others as the hierarchy. And healing relationship with God is number 1. In fact, here's what I have to say on that topic, because it is the cornerstone, it is the key. And that is this. And I'm going to speak from my experience. This is also what I believe, and so you can take it or leave it. But my experience in healing was that I finally realized through the process that the ulcerative colitis I was experiencing, it was a signal. It was a signal. And it was an invitation. What I realized was that it was a signal and an invitation from God to restore relationship with me. God was pursuing me through ulcerative colitis as a signal to restore our relationship. He was pursuing me. And I truly believe that God brings illness, trauma, brokenness in the world as a tool to pursue relationship with us, to bring us healing and restoration. And that was my experience. That is what I see now. That is how I understand it. And why did it take 8 years? Well, it took 8 years because there was a lot in the way. And as you know, with my business, with my work, I work with folks who have persistent gut issues, who have tried everything, not finding any solution, and like me, found that unresolved trauma and emotional wounds was at the core for why I wasn't recovering, why I wasn't healing. And that's what I teach, and that's what I help others do, is to resolve persistent gut issues through resolving trauma issues and emotional wounds. And so why did it take 8 years? Why did it take 8 years to heal? Well, because, and so this is what I want to talk about in terms of the healing process. Is the healing process is layered, guys. Lots of layers. I was diagnosed in college. I was probably 22 and I'm about to turn 40. I mean, think about that. How many layers between 22 and 40 that I had built up of hurt and survival and resistance and anger and bitterness and resentment. And so we think about that from like a spiritual and emotional standpoint, but that manifests in our body. That manifests in our body like a poor diet. It manifests like abusing technology. It manifests in our body like abusing substances. It manifests in our body like abusing exercise, abusing our relationships. So it manifests in our life, and this happens subconsciously, and so you don't realize you're doing it. You just know that you're in pain and you're trying to feel better, right? You're just trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure, which is what you're wired for. And so we miss it. So without me getting off topic here, healing is about restoring a relationship with yourself, with others, but most importantly with God. And I see that illness, especially chronic illness, is a signal and an invitation from God to restore a relationship with him. And why would he want to do that? Why would he want to do that? Because he created you, because he loves you. And as you begin to pull these layers back, as you begin to heal and pull the layers back, especially if you've had trauma and emotional wounds, what God is trying to restore in relationship with you is what you missed. It's why you're traumatized. It's why you have emotional wounds, because you aren't loved the way that you needed to, or in the right way, or in the right amount. You didn't have connection. In essence, the relationships that you didn't have, or misaligned or unhealthy relationships that you had in early childhood, he is pursuing you to restore those. And so we go through physical healing, but we also go through the mental, emotional, and spiritual component of healing as well. And so this is why I've really begun to see healing through the lens of relationship. Because that is the point of our life. That is why we're here. That's why God made you. That's why you exist, is for relationship with him, with yourself, and with others. And so he's pursuing you through your illness. He pursued me through my illness to restore a relationship, to teach me, to show me, and to help me embody what healthy relationship is like, what it feels like, how to act like it, how to think like it. And how to be it, I think, is most important. You know, he gave us the example of Jesus, who was the Son of Man. He was God's son sent to this planet, and he walked in our body. He walked in our flesh. He thought the way we think. He felt like we felt. He had to deal with the same issues that we've had to deal with. He was born to a virgin, He was born into a broken world. He was born in a manger. Like, talk about trauma. And he's the Son of God born to mortal people. Like, that's the craziest thing in the world. And he did it perfectly. He walked it out perfectly. He did that to give us an example of relationship. He did that so that when he died on the cross and he overcame sin and death, it was so that he left an example of what perfect relationship is like, about unconditional love, mercy, compassion, grace. So that when he comes knocking on your door, pursuing you through the lens of an illness like colitis, and begins to work on you and begins to expose your wounds, like you were betrayed, you weren't loved, you weren't nourished, you weren't poured into, you were emotionally neglected as a kid, that you could look and see that that happened to Jesus in some way, that he can relate to it, like he can relate to it with us. But he did all of that so that when you go, well, why would I want to believe you? Why would I want to put my trust in you? Why would I want to trust you with my healing? Because we need to trust him with our healing. We need to believe him with our healing. Why would I do that? Because God gave us his son, Jesus, that paid the ultimate sacrifice for you. So if you have any doubt, any question in your mind about, are you loved and cherished or not? Are you worth fighting for or not? There's your answer. And your answer is also the invitation in your illness, like I found, that I discovered that he was pursuing me through ulcerative colitis, of all ways. And if you study Jesus and the life he led, he was a peculiar person. He did things very differently than everybody else, right? You know, you look in the Beatitudes. You look at Turn the Other Cheek. All of these examples of where he was different. And so you just go like, Will, like, how can it be that God would allow me to be traumatized in childhood? How could God allow me to develop ulcerative colitis and be sick and suffer for so many years and run into so many dead ends? How could he do that, right? It's because the original relationship between man and God back in Eden, we broke our relationship with him. We decided that we wanted to be like God, and the serpent tempted us because God said, don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You can eat anything else, but just don't eat that one. And the serpent tested us and said, God doesn't want you to eat that because he doesn't want you to be like him. And we thought, I want to be like God. And we bit that apple. And that apple caused separation. It caused separation in relationship. And so why was the trauma allowed? Why was the ulcerative colitis allowed? Why was all the suffering and everything that came with that allowed? So that he could restore the relationship. And that's why he's here. That's why I'm sharing this with you, is because he's about restoring relationship with you. Through illness, through tragedy, through trauma. He says in the Bible that he makes everything good for those that love and follow him. So all you have to do is accept it. You just have to accept that. Allow that into your heart. Turn your heart to him. And that's part of healing, right? We got to heal the heart. We have to heal our heart. We have to let him heal our heart, because guess what? You study trauma, and I talk a lot about this. And I know I'm going all over the place, but bear with me. When you're traumatized, it fragments your spirit. It fragments your heart. It breaks your heart. Guess who else had their heart broken? Jesus did. Jesus had his heart broken when the people that he was coming to save, his own people, and the people he created, crucified him. He even says in the Bible, he says, forgive them for they know not what they do. Right? He says it. And he took it a step further. In order to save us, in order to break the chains of sin and death and trauma and destruction and evil, Jesus he broke relationship with his Father. That's powerful, guys. His heart was broken for you. That's why he loves you so much. That's why he's pursuing you through all of these things. And he died a painful death. And he rose again 3 days later. And he overcame sin and death so that he could come and pursue us. And yeah, you have to understand that God's ways are not our ways. They're just not. And you're going to find that in healing as well. You're going to find that God's ways of healing you are not the world's ways of healing you. Because what's so interesting as you go along the healing journey and you begin to heal your relationships with yourself, with others, and with God, is he does it in just wondrous, glorious ways that you would never expect. That's the thing about the healing journey that no one can coach you through, is that God uses everything for good. He uses everything for good. So what's really cool about the healing journey, when you allow it to happen, when you accept it, when you ask him for help, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, and you follow him, and you become a disciple of him, he'll use all kinds of things. He'll even use your mistakes. Because guess what? None of us can go through the healing journey perfectly. I certainly never, my last 8 years, I've made tons of mistakes. And he uses them all for good. Guess what? When God's your healer, you can't mess it up. You can't mess it up. Because you have an amazing, loving, heavenly Father that will leave the 99 sheep and go after the lost single sheep like me. He'll go after you. And he'll put you over his shoulder. He'll bring you back into the fold again. He'll love you. He'll restore you. Like, he couldn't be more happy to get one of his sheep back. So, again, when we talk about healing, I'd like to invite you to look at healing, looking at this healing journey through the lens of relationship, restoring relationship with yourself, which is very important because if you are wounded in childhood, if you're traumatized in childhood, or if you get bad programming in childhood, you're taught bad habits, you have bad models, which, again, it's a broken world. We're all going to have that. We have to allow him to restore those programs, those habits, those behaviors, those belief systems in us. And so that's healing with ourselves. And also realizing that a lot of those things that happen, as early childhood experiences are not your fault. You didn't have any choice. Number one, you were born into a family. You didn't get to choose. You didn't have an option. You didn't get to go to, you didn't get to go to like Amazon and pick a family and be like, oh, I'll take the athletic, smart family, and I'll take the creative, hippie family. And then some other kids are like, I'll take the alcoholic, single parent, dysfunctional family. Like, nobody chooses it, right? It's your lot in life, and we all have a lot in life. So it's not your fault. But it is your life, and it is your responsibility to do something about it. And so I'm here, I guess, like to witness to you that your illness, and especially, because I deal with the gut, your illness is a signal. Your symptoms are a signal that your body is holding something that it can't hold anymore. And I tell everybody I work with this is very factual, very true, that your gut is where you digest life. And so if you've had a bunch of child trauma wounds, generational trauma, emotional wounds, bad, models, bad belief systems that you were indoctrinated with as a kid, all of those, unless you've processed them and dealt with them, they're all sitting in your gut because you haven't been able to digest them. And I would say like digesting would look something like maybe you grew up with an unhealthy belief. And as you grew up, you realize that unhealthy belief is not true. Or you decide that you don't want that belief for you anymore. It doesn't serve you. It's not providing you with a healthy life. And so you let go of that belief and you take on a new belief. Well, you just digested that in the way I would see it. But in a lot of cases, most people don't digest those things because we're too busy in life. We're too caught up. And so these wounds, these traumas, these belief systems, the poor modeling, all that kind of stuff becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you were conditioned in that. And so you're going to go become that. And you do become it. And so it stays undigested in your gut. And over time, as it builds up, as those tissues become more saturated and more toxic and more inflamed, you begin to present symptoms. Your body starts telling you, hey, something is off. Your ability to process and digest life isn't working as well as it was before. And then it begins to fail. And it moves from maybe some indigestion or some bloating or maybe some undigested food in your stool, or maybe some diarrhea or constipation. Then it moves into some irritable bowel syndrome, which the name kind of tells us what's going on. Like, your bowels are irritated because it's trying to hold on to all this undigested, unprocessed life. And it's irritated and it's telling you. But in a lot of cases, we ignore this or we just try to deal with the symptoms. And so it persists and it just gets more toxic. And then you end up with what I dealt with, which is like IBD, irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel disease. And this can be fatal. It can end your life, or it can impair your ability to function to the point where you die from other causes or are become really ill from other causes as well. So this is just like an example of this progression. And so through my healing journey, I was able to kind of like play that tape all the way back to the beginning and notice that, wow, this all began from broken relationship, damaged relationship. And I would even say if it's like early childhood, it's your parents, your caregivers, your siblings, like whoever it was. Do they have a responsibility in it? Sure. Just like I have a responsibility to heal it. It's not their fault anymore. It's not their problem anymore. It's my problem to deal with now. I'm an adult. It's my responsibility now. Did they have a part to play in it? Sure. But guess what? Hurt people hurt people. That's not an excuse. It's just a fact of life. And from the very, very beginning, back in Genesis, that relationship between God and Adam and Eve, that brokenness in relationship, that separation, that is where trauma began. That is where illness began. That's where evil began. And it is inherited. It is passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. You can't escape it. That's the brokenness of our world. That's the fallenness of our world. That's why Jesus is That's why he came back. That's why he died on the cross. That's why he came and broke the chains of sin and death, so that he could actually redeem us, so we can actually find healing. But we need to look at it through the lens of relationship, or we miss it. Otherwise, you walk around thinking it's your fault. Why is my life a mess? Why is my life not like I had hoped or dreamed that it would be? Why? Well, you have the self-fulfilling prophecy of brokenness playing out in your life. And we live in a world today where we have a medical system that's broken. We have challenges with access to mental health care and to proper mental health care that doesn't just keep you in a system, but actually helps you resolve the issue. We live in a fallen and broken world, and like who wants to go dredge up their childhood trauma and their childhood wounds? I'd rather go to the beach, I'd rather go for a run or go hang out with my friends, right? Like, who wants to do that? I certainly avoided healing as long as I possibly could until in the fall of 2019, I realized that if I didn't deal with this, that this self-fulfilling prophecy was going to keep playing out. And years down the road, decades down the road, at some point, I was going to have some serious issues, maybe have some of my bowel removed, even worse. And so I had to make the choice, painful, difficult choice, to face it and to go and heal that. And to be quite honest, like, who doesn't want to be free of those wounds? Who doesn't want to go live their dreams? Who doesn't want to have restored relationship with themselves, with others, and with God? Who wouldn't want that? Well, I can definitely hear someone say, well, like, I wouldn't want a relationship with God because I'm mad at him. I'm mad that I was traumatized. I'm mad that I was born into a broken family. I'm mad that I have this illness. I'm mad, right? Can anger and hurt be a part of a relationship? Is it part of a healthy relationship? 100%. And so you're not wrong. That's a good thing. If you're mad at God, great. Tell him. Pursue that. But don't stop there. All right? Don't stop there. Because there are more feelings underneath anger. I know because I've worked through it. Anger leads to hurt. You're hurt. I was hurt. I was angry that my football career ended. I was angry that I had ulcerative colitis and I couldn't trail run anymore. I was angry that that ulcerative colitis and healing it was costing me literally everything: relationships, investments, retirements, jobs, everything. It cost me a lot. I was hurt that all that happened. Why me, God? Like, why did I have to experience trauma in my childhood? And that's because he has a story for each and every one of us. He has a redemptive story for each one of us, if we're willing to engage in it with him. If we're willing to pay attention to the signals that he is giving us and begin to pursue him back, because he is pursuing you. But you have to be willing to turn to him and begin the process of opening your heart up to him. And that takes some time, that takes some healing to get to a place where you can open your heart up. But just to be able to turn to him and go, you know what? I recognize that I can't heal myself. And I've tried everything else, and I've run into dead ends. And I don't want to end up on medication for the rest of my life, suppressing something that I know is in there. And my life's a mess. My relationship with myself and with others is not what I want it to be. It's not who I am. I know better than that. And so you begin that dialogue and that communication with him. Begin to open up to the process And because it's led by the Spirit, because it's led by God, it goes all over the place. And so we have to, the first step in that process, once we turn our hearts to him, invite him in, ask him to heal and transform your life like I did, that next step is going to be taking steps of faith, right? Taking steps of faith. Why is it taking steps of faith? Let me get a drink here. It's taking steps of faith because guess what? If you knew how to heal yourself, or someone else knew how to heal you, and they got it right, you wouldn't be asking this question. You probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. So you're gonna have to go do something that you don't know how to do, that you've never done. And what does that require? That requires faith. It requires belief. And so sometimes, and in my case, I spent years building up my belief and faith. It took me a long time to build up the faith and belief that if I went on this healing journey with God, that's what I wanted to do. And so sometimes it takes some time to build up your faith in your belief in God, learn about him, dialogue with him, go and seek him. He tells you that if you seek, you'll find, knock, and the door will be open. And it's that simple. But we begin that process of searching and seeking, and all of that is developing faith and belief. And then we get to start putting that faith into action. We get to begin to walk in faith. And friends, it's a challenge. Again, I said it earlier, that God's ways are not our ways. And you are not going to understand it. I can tell you in my experience that looking back, I can see exactly what he was doing and why. He's given me that understanding, and he'll give you that understanding too, reflectively once you've walked through it. But that's part of relationship, guys. Part of relationship is believing and trusting and developing faithfulness with one another. And yeah, things are going to go your way sometimes, and then other times it's not going to go your way. And that's a relationship. Then that's also life too, right? And so all of this is part of that healing process. I'm rambling, so I'm going to just pause that piece there and get back to my thesis with you, and that is to view the healing journey through the lens of relationship. Restoring relationship with yourself, restoring relationship with others, and restoring relationship with God as the most important. That is the most important relationship. And I think it's also important to say that when we walk in faith, when we turn our will and our life over to him, and we allow him to heal and to transform our lives, he knows the right order of everything. So you go well, okay, so I turn my heart to him. I ask God to heal and transform my life. I recognize that my relationship with him needs to be, first to heal that. But again, God's ways are not our ways. And so he knows. Do we need to go over and work on healing relationship with yourself for a little bit, and then coming over to healing relationship with others, and then coming back to him? Because he uses different things all for his good purpose. I have a beautiful it'll be 12 years here in 3 weeks, 12-year relationship, 12-year marriage with my wife. Beyond my wildest dreams, I couldn't have imagined a better relationship, a better marriage, a better best friend and lover, and all those great things that come in marriage than what I have with my wife, Elspeth. And God has used that relationship to show me as an example what relationship with him is like. And through that process, I fell in love with God like I did with my wife. And that's what he's after, is he's wooing us to fall in love with him. And so he'll use relationships. He'll use circumstances. He'll use all kinds of things. He'll use your mistakes. He'll use your mistakes for good. So that's why I said at the beginning that when you turn to him for healing and you don't quit, you can't mess it up. That's the beauty of this. Might it take a little bit of time? Might it take a bit of sacrifice? Yeah, it's going to cost you. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And I would also say that is what makes the experience that I've had and what I'm seeking to help others engage in so rare in this world, because it's costly. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of doing things that you don't understand yet and doing them anyway. It requires some loss. It requires so many things that you can't even understand until you are in that moment. It requires pain and grief and sorrow, just like Jesus went through. It requires all of those things. And that is so inconvenient in our world. So inconvenient. So uncomfortable. Who wants to be in pain? Who wants to actually feel the process of healing? That's why there's like narcotic medications, right? Like in anesthetics, like I don't want to feel the pain. Did you know that feeling the feeling is the feedback that changes you, transforms you? You have to feel it. My gosh, if you can feel the pain, it changes you. It rewires you. And you need to be rewired. Your nervous system needs to be rewired. Your immune system needs to be rewired. We live in a toxic, broken world. If you're sick, you need that stuff. That is where your healing is at. It's not in a pill. It's not in a supplement. It's not in a protocol. Although those things are supportive and very helpful, you're not going to find it there. You'll find symptom relief, and you will find ambivalence and mediocrity. Settling. And if that's right for you, so be it. If that's your calling, so be it. It wasn't mine. And if that's not your calling, this isn't for you. And this is for the people that don't want to settle. You get one life, as Switchfoot says, I want to live it well. You get one life, live it well. Don't settle. So don't settle for broken relationships with yourself. Don't settle for broken relationships with others. Don't settle for a broken relationship with God. He loves you. He's pursuing you. He cares about you. He sent his son to die for you. That was the wake-up call. Even being a Christian my whole life since I was 7 years old, my wake-up call that I don't think I've ever shared this publicly this was when I lived in Kansas City. I was driving across the West Bottoms over I-35, right next to where the Missouri River and the Kaw River meet. I was right in that area. And I was wrestling with why does God love me? I don't get it. And he told me very clearly, he said, Will, I love you so much that I took the son that I love so much and I allowed him to sacrifice himself for you. That's how much I love you. Now you start loving yourself like that. What would that look like if you started loving yourself like that? What if you started giving yourself compassion and mercy and grace like that? And it blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh. God really loves me. I had never felt that. I'd never expressed that for myself. I'd never treated myself with love and compassion and grace and mercy. I had never emotionally embraced myself. And I had never done that because it was never modeled for me. I never experienced it when I was a kid. So I didn't know. I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't even know it really existed. I saw other people have it. I saw it on TV. I was envious and jealous of it. I wanted it, but I had no idea how to accept it or how to experience it. In fact, I was quite guarded, protecting myself from it because it scared me, and because experiencing it meant first that I was going to have to feel what it felt like to not have it. And I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to feel that hurt of not having that and what it did to me. But that was part of my healing journey. And my loving Heavenly Father, He gently, graciously held my hand and walked me through that process. Hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year. And so I'm here to talk with you guys about this. I'd love to get more questions. Give me your questions. I will tell you that, like, if you're going to ask me really technical questions about healing gut issues, I'm not going to get into that right now. But I'm happy to talk about the healing journey. I'm happy to talk with you about the process of healing. And the reason I say that, not because like I can't talk to you about that or I don't know, I do know. But the thing I'm really passionate right now is about communicating to you about the things that don't get communicated about. What I'm talking to you about today, this doesn't get talked about. This is the stuff that happens behind closed doors. This is what happens in that innermost being in our heart. This happens in the depths. And like God's called me to bring it to light. One of my favorite, I'll leave you guys with this. There's a favorite Christian mystic that I'm learning a lot about recently. St. John of the Cross, Dark Night of the Soul, that whole thing. He went through a lot of these hard experiences of transformation, and a lot of his work, he said, was for the beginner. It's for the person who is out in the world going through this healing and transformation process and has no understanding of the process, has heard no other accounts of the process. And I know St. John of the Cross even said that, like, many were lost in the process because they didn't know what they were experiencing. They didn't know what was going on. And so I'm here to kind of like witness to that. I've been through it. I've done a lot of the research and studying in the, all the different fields that come into this. And so that's what I'm here to talk about, is the healing journey, the process, and, how do things work? We can talk about the healing spiral and why do you have to revisit old wounds? And, we can talk about that. I'd love to answer those questions. So I know I rambled a little bit today. This is my first upload of just like answering questions and just talking to you guys about my experience and just being a little bit more open than I have been on social media. But I just want to leave you with this again. To begin to look at your healing journey or the healing journey through the lens of relationship. I believe that that is what life is about relationship with yourself, with others, and with God, and ultimately about glorifying Him, about bringing Him praise and glory for the life that He gave us. Like, He gave me this life, so He gave you your life, and we should be thanking Him for that. We should be thanking Him for the relationship we have with ourselves. We should be thanking Him for the relationship we have with other people, because guess what? Hurt people hurt people, or hurting people hurt people, probably better said. But guess what? Healed people heal people. And so when you get to experience healing, it overflows your cup and you get to share it with others. You get to help others along their journey. I can't heal anybody. I can't heal you. I couldn't heal myself, okay? But I can share my experience. I can share my strength. I can share my hope with you. I can share with you about what I've learned. I can share with you about what God has shown me in this process and what I believe to be true. Like, why is He doing this? It's like one of the most age-old questions in human history is like, why does God allow bad things to happen in this, on this planet? So we could talk about that. Do I know all the right answers? Heck no. That's not why this exists. Again, this is about relationship here, right? I'm talking to you because this is relationship. We don't always need to know the right answers. We don't always need to understand to have a conversation and a dialogue and a relationship, because we get to learn and grow together. Okay? So, I'm going to leave you there for today. That's 45 minutes. See if you could digest that. And man, I'm glad that I did this. I'm going to do this a lot more. I don't know, maybe once a week or so. And I'll leave you with this. My tagline for my business is healing from the inside out. And I truly believe that. I believe that God's after your heart. He was after mine. He's after that fragmented spirit, man. He wants to heal your spirit. He wants to restore your soul, because your soul is eternal. Your body's not, guys. It's finite. It's not going to last forever. Should we care for it? Absolutely. It's his temple. He resides in our body. The spirit resides in our body. So our body is very important. But it's finite. It's not going to last forever. Your soul is. And so what are you investing in? Are you investing in things of the soul? Things of the spirit? Or are you investing only in your body, only in the things in the world, the material world? Because it's not going to last, guys. All right? So I'm going to leave you with that. I'll see you in the next one.